So I wanted to start off by asking you, the audience, if you know about 5 Black British Muslim women who are in mainstream media or in the public eye at all. Could you just raise your hands if you do know? Okay, so I'm going to ask if you know at least 3 Black British Muslim women in the mainstream media or the public eye. Can anybody raise their hands? Okay. Right, so I'm hoping that the next few ladies that I show you, you'll be able to be introduced to a few amazing women. So this is Sheila Naima Notsley. She is an award-winning film producer, screenwriter, and director. And she recently won the 2016 Aviva Women of the Year Award. And that was for her contribution to filmmaking. This is Adama Munu. She is a journalist, reporter, and a television producer for the current affairs program Africa This Week on the British television station Islam Channel. And here we have Saraiya Bah, who's it's a pleasure to see on the panel. And she is a poet, a spoken word artist, and a freelance writer. And she currently has poetry being exhibited at a poetry exhibition titled Radical Love, Female Lust. And that's running until March the 4th. And so if you want to hear more about it, please do come to her after. Next we have Pearls of Islam. And they are a highly dynamic acoustic duo who perform nasheeds all over Europe and have a wide range of instruments that they play, as you can see, such as the guitar and the djembe. And they attract both Muslim and non-Muslim audiences alike. And last but not least, we have Poetic Pilgrimage, who I'm hoping maybe a couple of you have come across. And they are a female hip-hop duo who have been together for over 10 years and have done amazing, amazing work in that time. They have recently completed a theatre production in Berlin about Malcolm X, and they have also been on stage with veteran musicians such as Talib Kweli of the hip-hop music genre. And lastly, in 2015, they released a documentary titled Hip Hop Hijabis about their career and the things that they've come across. And so it's with this in mind that I created the Black Muslim Times UK, which is an online platform dedicated to highlighting the achievements and work of Black British men and women. And as you can see, I showed you only women, and that is a bit of a bias from me. Because being both a Black woman and a Muslim woman, I don't see my racial identity or my religious identity merged together and presented to an audience. So I'm hoping that I'm able to show you that it's something that is done on a regular basis, but isn't brought to a mainstream audience. And so here we have a map of the continent of Africa. And as you can see, there's a little key in the corner. And so for those at the back who may not be able to see, this is showing the Muslim population in Africa. And in the north part of Africa, in places such as Algeria, Egypt, and Libya, there is a highly concentrated amount of Muslims, over 70%. And when you move further down into the central parts of Africa, such as the Central African Republic or Congo, you see that it ranges between 10 and 29%. And so I brought this map to show you that when it comes to the narrative of Muslims, I personally believe, and in the conversations I've had with many others, that the African Muslim is left out of the conversation. And so, yes, I presented this map to you just so you could see statistically for yourself if it isn't something that you've come across before. And so the following few slides are a quote that is taken from Professor Rudolph Ware, I believe that's his name, and he stated that 1 in 6 of the world's Muslims live in sub-Saharan Africa, and Africa is maybe the only continent that has a Muslim majority. And as I've mentioned, that isn't something that is said widely in mainstream media or any academic discourse. And he then said that there are more Muslims in Nigeria than there are in Egypt. And just to, if you're not too convinced by that, Nigeria is the most populated country in the whole of Africa, with, I believe, about 173 million, whereas Egypt is about 87 million, so there's a good 30 plus more million people in Nigeria than in Egypt. So it would make sense that there would be more Muslims in Nigeria than Egypt. But of course, when it comes to representation, you're more likely to see an Arab face or an Asian face and not an African face. And so the African Muslim, both here and abroad, is seen as an anomaly rather than a norm. He then said that there is a higher percentage of Muslims in Senegal than there are in Syria. And now, I'm not too familiar with Senegal, and I know that many others aren't, and it's something that they might come across as a personal interest. And I believe that there's many other African countries with a high Muslim population that don't get the representation. And so when we speak about black Muslims in Islam, we speak about Bilal, who was the companion of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who was of Ethiopian heritage, if I'm not mistaken. And I've heard that said repeatedly for many, many years. And only very recently did I come across Mansa Musa, who was a 14th century king of the wealthy Mali Empire. And so it's my personal belief that if you're going to tell the story of Bilal, you should tell the story of Mansa Musa alongside it. So if you're going to talk about the slaves, you should talk about the kings. And he then further said that there are more Muslims in Ethiopia than there are in Iraq. And I know that Aisha was a bit shocked by that certain statistic, because Ethiopia is seen as a traditionally Christian country and a high concentration of Christians. But through the research, it has shown that there are more Muslims concentrated in Ethiopia than there are in Iraq. And of course, again, it goes back to the size of the country compared to the other country. And so he concludes by saying that we can no longer look at Africa as marginal to the story of Islam, or Islam as marginal to the story of Africa. And so Islam in the Caribbean, I'll be honest with you, as a British Nigerian, my focus has been on Nigeria and Africa. And I have an interest in the Caribbean, but my research isn't as extensive. But I do recognize that there is a vast majority of Muslims in the Caribbean nations, in the 40-plus islands of the Caribbean. And so this is a quote from Sheikh Abdullah Hakim Quick, who is a historian of Black history and Black Muslims in Islam, history of Black Muslims in Islam. And he stated that the history of Islam and Muslim peoples in the Caribbean stretches back over 1,000 years, predating European contact by over 6 centuries. And so this is showing you that, once again, if you don't take a personal interest in this narrative, you will believe that every Jamaican or Caribbean Muslim that you come across has only just converted, has only just discovered Islam, when really it's been in their heritage, it's been in their lineage, it's been in their genetics for many centuries. And he further said that evidence of this is the number of sculptures, oral traditions, eyewitness reports, artifacts, and inscriptions. And of course, if you wanted to take this away and do your own personal research, you would find all of the things that he's mentioned. And so you don't have to just take my word for it. I would highly recommend everybody to do, even if it's just like a quick social media glance, and just Google Black British Muslims, see what you come across. Because for me, it wasn't much, and it was a dig. And people like Sheila Naima Notley or Adama Munu reached out to me. And so it's through building relationships and discovering other people and reaching out that I'm able to do such a conference or speak with other amazing people. And so these are the details of the Black Muslim Times UK website. So as you can see at the top, it's the website address, followed by the Facebook page, the Instagram page, and the email address. And so if you do believe that there are any African or Caribbean Muslims that you personally know that are doing great work. Because we feature a wide range. We've had artists, poets, sportswomen. So we recently had Asma El-Badawi, who is a basketball player who comes from Sudan originally and has lived in Birmingham, I believe. And so yes, we recently featured her in our latest issue, and she spoke about being both a basketball player, a basketball coach, and a spoken word artist. And she travels all around the world doing her work. But of course, as far as I know, you don't come across stories like hers often unless it's a sensational headline. So the National Basketball Association have placed a ban on the hijab, and so she can't play either nationally or internationally because she wears a hijab. And that's something that she's campaigning about constantly and consistently. And had it not been for that, I probably may not have known who she was as well. I hope that you can take away from this the need to understand that there is a narrative beyond what we're presented with, and that the African Muslim and the Caribbean Muslim isn't an anomaly. They are an everyday person. They are amongst you every single day, and they're doing great work. And I believe that you really should reach out and see what is there. Thank you.